Hey, Audio Road listener, what is your profit per mile? How about your cost per mile? Or even your bottom line? Stop driving blind and know your numbers. Profit Gauges is absolutely simple bookkeeping specifically for owner-operators. Have instant access to business and tax reports that will help you increase your profits and keep your money in your pocket where it belongs. Sign up for Profit Gauges today and take advantage of our 30-day free trial. Know your numbers and master the journey. Visit our website at letstruck.com or call our Tribe Care Team at 855-800-FUEL. That's 855-800-3835.
Your money, your taxes, your truck, and your road to success in the trucking industry. This is Trucking Business and Beyond, the show that puts the money where it belongs, back in your pocket.
Good morning, you beautiful bunch of Fockers, and welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Monday, November 18th. We are here live. My co-host, Brent Hutto, is here with me, and we're also bringing in a special guest today from truckstop.com. We're welcoming in Andrea Johnston. She's the Chief Revenue Officer at Truckstop. We'll be hearing from her in just a minute. Brent, good morning.
Good morning, KR. It seems like an eternity since I've been on the co-hosting with you. So, but I'm back. I'm almost at full strength after my surgery, and I'm doing great, man. Super glad to be on with you today and talking to my favorite audience, the trucking industry.
You're like the bionic man now.
Yes, sir. I am. I got two fake hips.
That's right. Two bionic hips. Upgrades.
That's right. Two body. Yes, sir. I sure do.
Yeah. So we've got a lot to talk about, but we also have a guest with us this morning.
That's right. Well, yeah, joining us this morning is Andrea Johnston. She's our Chief Revenue Officer. She's become one of my favorite people to be around because her laugh is infectious. She's like a real person, if you know what I'm saying, man. She's just so much fun to be around, and she's always keeping things optimistic and encouraged and keeping it real. So I'm glad that Andrea's going to get to join us today to talk to the truckers. So it's going to be a great day. I'm glad she's here.
Well, you know, it's November, so our theme this month is gratitude, and that's what we're going to talk
Amen.
about. We all have so much to be grateful for. So without any further ado, let's bring Andrea in. Andrea, good morning.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. You sound great this morning.
Well, thank you so much. Kevin, I met you at Mass, which was my first week at Truckstop.
Oh, wow.
Last year.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah,
and I'm super happy to join you, and I'm super grateful to be part of this community, and Brent is one of our best champions ever. And while I am not a freight person, I've worked in the freight world with wine companies, and then I've worked at Open Table for many, many years. And so it's sort of the marketplace, how you connect restaurants, SMBs with the diners. And I think Truckstop's trying to do the same thing. So anyway, I don't know what I don't know, but I am super happy to sit with you both and learn.
Well, you know, the message being gratitude, you know plenty about that. And I have an interesting story. By the way, starting in the industry and starting at a company like Truckstop and then going to Matt's in your first couple of weeks is quite the initiation.
I did a few demos, Kevin. And I signed a few contracts.
There you go.
She jumped right in though, man. She went over to the Mercer homecoming event and talked to a bunch of owner operators there, and she's just one thing I love about Andrea is that she just wants to learn. She loves our industry. The company she came from before, Open Table, deals with small businesses. So her job was to communicate to these small businesses, hey, how can we help you be more successful by getting more diners to come in to your location? And that's what the Open Table app does. And so there's a lot of sort of similarities with what we do at Truckstop, helping small businesses, owner operators, and certainly small brokers as well, but predominantly owner operators. These small businesses, find freight for their trucks. So she's got the same goal, which is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So real quick, one of my favorite stories to tell about a small carrier kind of ties into what you used to do. So, Brent, you've been to the CMC. Andrea,
Yes, sir.
we're going on our 20th year this year. The CMC is now actually an official part of Matt's. That happened the first time this year. We started that program
Yes,
20
sir.
years ago. We have great success stories, but we had somebody come to the event back in, I'm going to say it was like 2013, 2014. And I got talking to him, and he had a couple of trucks, and he was running some local stuff around California. And then he came back again the next year, and I talked to him again, and he had added some trucks. Might have been up to maybe 12 or 15 by then. And then when I got back on X just recently, I came across him and we got talking. He was up to like 60 or 70 trucks. And actually what he is he's a wine distributor, spirits, but mostly wine. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Wow,
I remember talking to him.
Yeah, TJ.
Yeah, I remember talking to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great story. I just love that. So he's got, a terminal in Dallas. He's got some property on the East Coast, and just a lot of great customers, but he's really focused on the wine and spirits.
I love it.
Yeah. So many things to do in trucking. So, one of the things we wanted to focus on today was gratitude. And that's kind of the theme of my keynote when I do keynotes is gratitude and giving back to others, which I've found is one of the ways to really feel gratitude is to take some time and give back, because we have been so fortunate.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Kevin. This, I think it was when your eyes are open and you are looking for things that are a benefit in your life, and you express gratitude towards them. I think that it helps you be a more optimistic person. I think it helps you be kinder to others. It's like you can always look at the things you didn't get or you don't have, and do that, but that doesn't really get you anywhere. What gets you somewhere is to go, okay, what do I have? What is something that is a fundamental benefit to my life? And once you get to that gratitude level, boy, life just kind of continues to spin more and more optimistic in your favor. Because I think if you're looking for the good in something, you can find it. So to me, I love this thing. It's one of the reasons I love being friends with you, is that you're always expressing gratitude for things.
Well, Brent, you've been with me on stage many, many times for years now, and I don't do it at every event, but when I have time, you'll recognize the story. Andrea, this is one of my favorite stories, and it really is about gratitude. And this is a real story. You can go look it up online. I retell it. It's not my story. I heard it probably 30 years ago. The story is called Acres of Diamonds. Right? You've heard me tell that one a few times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
it's just this idea that we are all surrounded by our own acre of diamonds, and we just have to figure out what that is. What is another way of putting it is, what is our uniqueness? What could we really be good at, and then we can grow from there. And the idea is that no matter where you are, you have something to be grateful for, and that's where you start from. Yeah, and in the story, it's about somebody who runs around trying to just find riches, but doesn't really understand that they're already very, very rich. And if we skip that, then we can just get really frustrated, run around chasing money, when what we're really after is riches or wealth. And it's a great story. I love telling it. I'm not going to tell it today because I normally tell it on Thanksgiving week at some time on the show.
Yeah.
So we're getting
So
close.
we'll just wait a little bit there.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Andrea, you had some statistics about owner operators in the market today, and those were pretty interesting. Want to go over those?
Sure. Happy to. Well, I know it is not an easy profession. I've actually I love to talk to Uber drivers, and a lot of them are actually truckers as well, and they've had to put their trucks in storage because the rate per mile is not so great for them right now. But according to our latest survey from Bloomberg, more carriers see themselves exiting the industry, 15% saying they think they're going to be out of trucking in the next 6 months. And I got to say, Kevin, this hurts my heart so much. And, we are trying our best to bring loads and get more brokers to put more loads on there. But I know it's a tough industry. It's a great industry, but it's a tough industry. And that's what I have to say.
Well,
Yeah. Hey.
Oh, go ahead, Brent.
Yeah, Kevin. One thing about the Bloomberg survey is that, and we just got those results back out. So this survey was before the election.
Ah.
So
interesting.
And I'm not trying to go politics or in any way. I'm just saying that trucking is conservative, and you find that I think the outcome of this election may make, and I'm going to guess after 27 years doing this, it may make some of these owner operators that would have thought about maybe exiting the industry to reconsider that, because maybe they might be more optimistic that there'd be less regulations, there'd be less oversight, maybe there'd be more opportunity for them.
Well, I struggle with politics on this show because it's one of those obviously really polarizing topics. Actually, there's three groups when it comes to this. One that loves me talking about politics, and they're very vocal about it. One that is probably rooting for the other team in politics and hates when I talk about it. And then the third, who are just completely non-political and don't want me to talk about it either. So it's always a challenge, but the reason I talk about it, the reason I'm going to be talking about it a lot right now, is unfortunately, our government has become so big, we have to talk about it. It affects everything we do. And in business, it's twice that much. We really have to be aware of what's going on. And I made this statement I was on a panel last week at NASDAQ on the closing day. And it was about compliance. I'm not even sure why I was up there. I hate compliance. I tell people all the time, don't ask me compliance questions. I don't know. I don't want to know. It's just not my thing. So I was on this panel, and my closing statement was, I really hope we get to a place where I don't have to talk about politics anymore. I hope we get to a place where our government is small enough and non-intrusive enough that for the most part we can ignore it.
Right.
So we do get very political here, and for a while it's going to be a big topic, and it's a big topic on every day. Even though I do themes like today, we talk about rates and lanes and volume and all those things and data and trucking, and this is going to have a big impact on trucking. There's no way around it, what we're seeing happen right now. So we're going to be talking about it. We're going to be trying to get prepared for what's coming. Tuesdays, you would think maintenance. Well, I don't have to talk about politics there, but I do. The EPA is huge. We've been dealing with the EPA and all their mandates for decades now, and that could change in certain ways. On Wednesday, it's all health. I can't think of an area that is bigger in politics right now than health, and it's never been talked about. So I've got to stay up with that, and we've got guests coming on. Thursday might be the only day I can skip it, but Thursday's just a free-for-all. We talk about whatever we want. Friday, we talk about efficiency. And isn't it interesting that that's the whole theme of our Friday show, and we now have a government agency about efficiency. Whoever saw that coming?
Yeah, no doubt. And so, and I wasn't trying to spin this into politics at all today. I was just trying to say that optimism and being grateful for an environment that is more beneficial to run in is that's something to be grateful for if you're a trucker.
Let's go back to what Andrea said, because this caught my attention. Yeah. She talked about talking to Uber drivers when she's traveling,
Yeah,
and that
I did the same thing. Yep.
many of them are truck drivers that have parked their trucks. Here's the sad part about this, because I can promise you this. I know what they make as an Uber driver. I've talked to Uber drivers
Right.
and Lyft drivers from day one. I know what the potential is. I know what they make. It is
Right.
sad. If we could help them, we can. If they would let us help them run their business better, even at the very bottom of this market, the worst time ever, they could have been taking home 3 times their potential as an Uber driver. It's not even close.
True.
And
Yeah.
it's a shame that has to happen, that they had to park that truck. They shouldn't have to. And we could teach them how not to. That's the whole point of what we do. And again, I can tell you that there is the potential for them to make 3 or 4 times more, even in this market, than they're making as an Uber driver. And it's just education.
Right.
I mean, this
Yeah, for
market
sure.
is
100%. And Kevin, just to jump in for one
Sure,
sec, what
sure.
you were teaching folks when I was in my first week at Mass, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like educational for everybody and how you can do better with your trucks and learn the right lanes and the thises and the that's. And I think that is the type of stuff that we need to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brent, you know this, and we talk about
Yeah.
carriers leaving the market. That's just a necessity. And Andrea,
Yeah, part of it is. Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
Andrea, I know you said it really hurts when that happens, but this is kind of, the same as tough love with your kids. You got to be honest. The reality is there's only so much freight available. There's only so many carriers needed to move it. And the way a free market works is, the least efficient operators will be the first out of the market. And we have to have that. We need that. It's just necessary. It doesn't mean that you can't learn a few things, get back into the market. It's such an easy market to get into that even if you failed at this before, we can show you how to do this right. Anybody?
Yeah, for sure, Kevin. So,
there you are.
yeah, no, sorry. Maybe Andrea's on one coast, by the way. I'm in Alabama, and I'm getting ready to go up to the F3 conference up in Chattanooga. So, so the good thing about it is that there is, and this is one of the things I'll tell you. I just had one of our friends, Kevin, on my Freight Nation podcast, Ilya Denisenko.
Oh yeah,
and he just got in the market. He just got in the market in January.
Yes.
January.
Yes.
I mean, but look, here's the thing. And this is the thing to be grateful for, because I'm grateful for him because of his example of, he was a company driver for a few years, learned the ropes from a really, really salty a guy that helped him understand how to drive a truck and work his operation. Then was a lease owner operator for a while. He's worked for 3 or 4 different companies for that was about a 6-year period between the two things. And then decided in January of 2024, right? This is a down market, but I remember, Kevin, you've said over and over, it's a good market to get in on. So he started in January, but here's the thing that I was grateful about Ilya was that, number one, is that he educated himself, and then he knows his numbers. I asked him what his operating ratio, what his operating cost was. He immediately shot back to me. It's $1.26 a mile right now.
Wow.
He goes, plus I'm getting plus, and this is another thing, that I'm getting 9 miles a gallon. He drives a Volvo. He goes, I'm averaging 9 miles per gallon, which is phenomenal, right? That's fantastic.
Right. Yeah. And that the reason he was able to start at the bottom, and this is what I talk about all the time. If you're getting started in any business, you have to have a model, and you have to have some projections about numbers, and you have to be able to look at the rates at the moment and say, I can afford to get into and stay into business with those rates. I'm not going to get rich. I'm not going to grow. I can get into business and I can stay in business. And if you're able to do that, if you have a model that shows, look, these numbers make sense, I can do this, that is the best time to start. Because if your model works at the bottom, and not only does it work on paper, it worked in the real world. He's proving it. He is profitable in this year, where we all feel like we're kind of at the bottom on rates. And he has not only survived this, but he's done really well. You know, something else he's done in his first year that I almost never see
What's that?
owner operators or small carriers do? He's been to at least 2 industry events in 1 year that I'm aware of,
Oh,
probably a
yeah.
couple more.
Yeah, he talks a lot about that, about going, and when he had a hard time finding freight when he was an entry owner operator, he would just go to their offices, or
Yeah.
he'd go to a show, and he'd go meet them somewhere, and lo and behold, they started giving him freight.
Yeah.
And they still do.
Yeah, all these rules, we don't load carriers with less than a year on their authority. We don't load carriers unless you've had a safety inspection. Those are all rules. And in business, many times, those kind of rules are meant to be broken. You just have to know how and why a company would be willing to break that rule. And they don't break it just because you call them on the phone and say, that's a stupid rule. Why won't you load me? That's not going to work. But if you know how, if you go visit these people, if you sit down with them and say, look, here's my record. I've been driving a long time. I've owned trucks. Now I'm a carrier. It's not like he's inexperienced. And they were willing to work with him. And he had no real trouble once he got rolling getting freight, even being a brand new carrier.
Right. Andrea, I know that we one of the things I'm grateful for is all the owner operators that do come to us every single month, and I know that your team, our team, your team that really calls them in is they're a lot of fun to talk to about when they talk to the owner operators.
Yeah, no,
Andrea,
100%.
oh, there she is.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought maybe you dropped off. Yeah.
No, I'm here.
Maybe you dropped off.
No. Our team, like, they are trying to coach owner operators. They are trying to give them the tools and the data and all of that sort of stuff. That's why I joined Truck Stop. Like, it makes me super happy. And, I think that folks that I have interacted with over the past 7 months that I've been here, like, geez, you're running your own business, and it's hard, and it's not that much different than starting a restaurant or anything like that. And so I am truly empowered by interacting with all of you folks on who are running the show.
Fantastic. Hey, Brent, we need to do a better job of coordinating our events.
You talking about industry wide, or just you and I? What do you mean?
Yeah, industry wide. Just last week, I was in Tennessee at an event, and you weren't, and now you're going to be in Tennessee at an event, and I'm not. We should have coordinated those better.
Yeah, well, we probably should have coordinated. Yeah, absolutely. I was convalescing, as they say, trying to get myself back to normality here with my hip. So I didn't have much focus. I knew you were going to be in Tennessee. Absolutely.
So I'll give you an update on it. You know what my favorite part of the event was this year? Same as it was last year. Donald Broughton.
Oh yeah, DB. Yeah, DB. I heard he gave a great presentation there.
He is incredible. You know, when you think of a financial analyst,
he's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you think about somebody that's pretty laid back, pretty conservative, a lot of numbers, a lot of that kind of stuff. And usually you don't think of it as like a really dynamic, exciting presentation. But Donald Broughton is like somebody took a financial analyst and crossed him with Anthony Robbins. I mean, the guy is
in that way,
he's so good on stage. I mean, his data and what he presents is fantastic, but his presence on stage, I was in the front row, right dead center, and I couldn't look away for a second. Did you hear what his message was by chance?
I didn't. I heard his message about in April. And I do know that he's more optimistic about the return of the economy than most are. I know that he seems to be very optimistic about it. Was it kind of the same?
Over the top optimistic. Like he is claiming
for sure.
The next 10 to 15 years. Now, first off, for any analyst to predict a time period that big is pretty unusual because a lot of things can change in 15 years. It's hard enough to predict 15 months, But he
Right.
really believes, and he like he always does, he backed it up on why he thinks this way, on the data, the numbers, what's going on, and it's in depth. You have to pay attention. But he claims that the next 10 to 15 years, we will see more prosperity and opportunity than any time in our lifetime. That's a big statement.
Yeah, and he's gone back, probably 100 years in looking at it. Now I know that. Now we got to remember. First off, I'm grateful for his optimism, and I think if you look at kind of what Craig Fuller is saying at Freight Waves about being more optimistic about 2025 for the trucking industry, and I see the same thing. I may not see it in the same exuberance, and certainly Donald, when he talks about it, it's a little longer term. He looks at it on like a decade standpoint. But anyways, I think here's what I'm grateful for. I think more people that are looking at data today saying that we've come all the way through the bottom, and it's beginning to shift back out towards it being a more positive market for trucking, which means rates continuing to climb up over a period of time. And you heard Donald Broughton say this. You've heard Craig Fuller say this.
Right.
I heard Tom Albrecht at Reliance, who is their big economist. He's a big guy in the marketplace. He feels like housing is going to be a big boom next year, which is really good for a big part of our marketplace for not just flatbed, but for dry van as well, for moving the goods in. So I think overall, I'm grateful to hear maybe more, just more optimism when it comes to the reality of what's going to go on, not like a guess. And so so that's super exciting.
It really is, and he explained why. A big part of it is going to be a boom in nearshoring, bringing manufacturing back to our country. Sure. And he laid out why that's going to happen. And a lot of people right now think the tariffs that are being talked about will drive that. It might drive some of that, but he didn't focus on the tariffs at all. He was just focusing on changes in technology and the cost of shipping things around the world. And it's going to become, it already is, much easier and cheaper to manufacture things than it used to be. And the fact that, as much as sometimes we hate to hear about all this automation because it puts people out of jobs, but we also have to remember we've been automating things for 100+ years that have put people out of jobs, and yet we still have more jobs than we've ever had. And his point is this automation, the reason that will drive nearshoring, it makes total sense. The only reason we build so many things in Asia, China, Taiwan, places like that, is because labor is cheap. That's it. That's the only reason. Labor's cheap.
Right.
He's showing where the labor is not going to be present in a lot of these products anymore. That so much is being automated that you don't need people and labor, and we can manufacture here and bring the cost of products down. And it's because that we're taking that labor component out of things. So on one hand, we feel like we're going to lose all our jobs, but on another hand, it's really good for our economy right now to automate a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, let me, you saying that makes me think of Andrea's experience with Open Table. So Andrea, I want to ask you a question, since you deeply know what Open Table did to help small restaurants create success. And that's automation. Open Table is an automated reservation system, that sort of thing. So Andrea, when you guys would bring a piece of automation or your automation into their business, what was the result of them using the product?
Well, thank you for asking. I met with so many different restaurants, and they had Rolodex cards with people's like wine preferences or table assignments or whatever. Right. And when we brought in the technology, we're like, hey, you have a customer relationship tool that you can actually log into your computer and learn what my preferences are. And hey, if you actually turn it 2 top, 4 top, these are the times, and we can actually give you more people. Here's how you set it up so that it's available to the diners. I mean, I think that was incredible, but there was a lot of resistance to the automation and the computer thing because it's hospitality, right? And it's a very high touch business. And so I think that some of the stuff we did was it like I would see 5x, 7x revenue increases in restaurants when we just put our technology in there.
So Kevin, I wanted Andrea to give that example, because think about today, how many owner operators are operating in today's market, even in a difficult market? How many more are working today than in, say, 2019? So, and I'm gonna spitball a number. I'm gonna say there's probably 30 to 50,000 more that are operating today than were in 2019.
Okay.
And I say that because we know this, we see this at truck stops. Now here's my point about technology. The reason that they can stay in the market is because of the availability of freight to them at any given moment, 24/7 on load boards. And so, and the ability to communicate back and forth very easily. My point though is the technology, and you can look at this, I can show you really interesting economic curves, and the biggest one's called the Kondrativ. But when technology comes into something, it doesn't diminish what goes on in the industry. It makes it get bigger every single time. Now, and so, well, let me put it this way. Most of the time, it makes them get bigger. So I wouldn't be too concerned about the idea of automation or technology into things, because usually it creates a bigger opportunity for more people to get in, which means there's a bigger pie, which means you get a bigger slice of the pie.
You know, Brent, I think the last time we had Noel on with us, we talked about this. This idea that there are people that have a mindset that there is a finite size of pie. This is it. This is the pie, and how do we divide it up?
Right.
And when you have that mindset, it leads to thoughts like, well, if you get more, I have to get less. And that's a horrible environment to work in when you think that way. But if you think there are ways to just make a bigger pie, and then I can get more and you can get more, and we can all benefit and prosper. And that's the idea behind efficiency and finding better, less expensive ways to do things. You expand the pie and everybody benefits.
Right, for sure. I mean, you just look at what happens in any market. The economy tends to expand when you've got more people that, I'll give you, for instance, anytime a middle class in an economy can grow from small, in other words, there's no judgment here, just the lower financial class to the middle class to the upper financial class. Whenever you can have people go from the lower to the middle, the pie gets bigger for everybody.
Yes.
Because there's more opportunity. And so that's really the big deal. And so that's really one of the reasons why, and I appreciate the show about gratitude today, just because I'm just grateful that these things are available for owner operators out there. So here's the thing, so they can have choice to run their business the way they want to run their business.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm going to go back to the book you recommended, and I finally read it. And
I was waiting for you to make that.
I've been using it as an example ever since. And the biggest lesson I got out of that book was the way to grow the pie is to be more efficient. That was one of the main tenets of that book. Is so, believe it or not, I was kind of in a little bit of a dispute on social media. I usually avoid it completely. I have a new method of being on social media. I post whatever I want to post to inform people about what's going on, and then I never ever reply to anything anybody says. I just post and move on, because it no matter what you post, somebody's going to attack it. So the other day I just couldn't help it though. So I don't know if you've seen this or not, but there is a big movement on X. Craig Fuller would like to be the Secretary of Transportation.
Well, I saw a little snippet about that, that he's on the short list to potentially be that. That would be very
So
interesting.
it is, it's kind of, I thought it started
Oh,
off as a joke
actually,
because,
I heard your post on
well,
Instagram about it. It's really where I heard the big part of that.
yeah, so in my mind, it kind of started out as a joke. Somebody nominated me, and then
I
somebody else
remember that. I
nominated
remember that. Yeah.
Craig, so that they were, and I said, wait, hold on. Um, this actually looks like you're starting to get serious about this. Let me be really clear. I don't want it. I don't want the title. I don't
Right.
want the job. That's not for me. I like doing what I do every day. And if I had that job, I would not be able
Right.
to do what I do. This would all stop. Um, first
Right.
off, Craig's way more qualified in that job than I am, because this isn't, transportation isn't just trucking. There's a lot of other modes out there that you have to be aware of. So I said, look, if
Right.
this is actually getting serious, let me just say this: I don't want it. I think Craig would be great at that job. I'd love to see that, actually. And I said I would be willing to be an advisor of some sort. Something that I could do from a distance and help
Right.
with the experience on the small side of the market. And Craig was all over that. So it's just interesting to see what's happening. And again, it's political, but we're going to be talking about this a lot. There are, I'm starting to lose count. There are either 4 or maybe 5 people now that have either been on the show multiple times or are scheduled, are coming up on my show, that have all been tapped to be a part of this government. It's like, I don't just,
Oh, really?
So,
Wow.
yeah, both on the
so
health.
Kevin,
Go ahead, Andrea.
how would you advise? Like, what would be your top 3 things?
I would be really, really big on creating stronger education programs and better training from the very beginning. Let's train the drivers better coming in so that they are just better drivers. Because I think our training system now is horrendous. We have big fleets that put people as trainers when they haven't even had a full year of experience yet. They haven't experienced all 4 seasons. It's just horrendous to think that somebody with 6 months in the truck is training somebody else. And what that does, I would rather see those people not trained at all, because what it does is it gives them a false sense of they're being taught the wrong things. And it's harder to relearn something that you've learned wrong than it is to just learn it right in the first place. So when we have such poor training programs, we put people in as driver trainers with less than a year, we're just perpetuating our problem. We're perpetuating our turnover. We're perpetuating our horrible safety record. Our safety record sucks right now. And we're doing all that because we just don't train drivers how to drive. So I would be strong on better training and continuing education, because it is kind of a big thing in this industry. It's easy to buy a truck. It's pretty easy to get started, and there's almost no education. And we see a lot of people fail, and it's just a shame because it's not that hard. Um, Brent, you and I have a great webinar series coming up about this.
Oh my goodness, we sure do. Yeah. So Andrea, and I appreciate you asking about the top 3 things on this thing, because it would be nice to have somebody, the head of the Department of Transportation, that has a tremendous experience in our marketplace. And so Kevin and I, and when Kevin talks about educating owner operators, he and I have been dedicated to this for multiple decades, and we're creating a webinar series around all of what it means to be. What does it mean to think about becoming an owner operator? What are all the things you need to consider about the setup of your business? What are the things you need to know about technology? What are the things you need to know about operations? What are the things you need to know about compliance? What are all the things that all the I's to dot and T's to cross that you need to think about when you're taking the step? Because as Kevin likes to say, becoming an owner operator, your day doesn't look a whole lot different than it does when you were a company driver or even a leased owner operator. It doesn't look a whole lot different, but it is really, really different.
And you have to know that and understand it. So I just think overall in our industry, the first thing, if I'm getting to advise on any of this would
Right.
be to improve education and training right from day one. So
Yeah.
that which is what I do every day anyway. And Brent, you and I have been doing this for a long time, so that's just a natural fit for me. But I don't want to stop doing what I do. There are lots
Right.
of people who could be really good at the Secretary of Transportation, and Craig's one of them. You look at his experience;
sure.
he grew up in the industry, built Freight Waves into an amazing company. He's got a lot of connections, and he understands a lot of the different modes. But I would, though, like to be a part of just advising on that and advising on the
Yeah.
owner-operator small carrier side of things.
I could see that as a wise choice. But I really like to. I really like to see what it looks like for Kevin Rutherford to be in Washington D.C. I think that'd be a very interesting documentary I'd like to watch.
Yeah.
But so when you talk about gratitude, one of the things that I love when I'm on the program with you is talking to owner operators, and I love to hear the things when they talk about the success that they've had, Kevin, when they know their numbers. And so I just think about the best ones I know all really know their operation. They know their numbers. They really enjoy what they're doing. They get a lot of choice because they're profitable. So I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he's talking about the owner operators that know their numbers make an average of $5 to $10 grand more net profit per year just because they know their numbers.
Easy.
Have you ever looked at that on Let's Truck, on the amount of profit they make more per year?
It's significantly more than that. It's double that. That's not a bad statistic, but in a lot of cases, it's double that. Here's a great story that I just had again because I was out at an event. Mark, one of my regular callers, I'm sure you've talked to him. He's a car hauler, and typical story. He actually failed as a hotshot, and then
Right.
and got back into it, and went to a full car hauler. And I'm going to take a little credit here. He started listening to my advice about knowing your numbers and building relationships, and he even started going to events and started going out and meeting people that had freight. And here's what that leads to. So I talk all the time about, when I get that question, we'll go back to the question about when should you get started in business. And the real answer to that, I know we talked about, I say you should start at the bottom if there's an opportunity for that. But we have to look, if you tried to start at the bottom between, say, 2012 and 2020, there was no bottom. There was no good entry point. We were on kind of a run that whole time. So there's no way I would tell somebody, well, you have to wait till we're at the bottom. That's not really the message. The message is, when you start has, I'm going to say, nothing to do with the economy. It has everything to do with, are you prepared to start? Do you understand what,
sure.
if we're at the top, do you understand what the bottom is going to look like? And it's not hard. We have all the historical data, right? You could go back through and tell us virtually every time we've been at the bottom. I mean, we know where we are in a market, but the idea is, what determines when you start is you, not the market. It's how prepared you are. Do you understand? So Mark started learning about this, and here's why the economy really doesn't matter. So far, and he's been in business for several years, many years doing this, but so far, his best year ever is 2024.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
That's really remarkable.
He showed me, and he had his numbers from profit gauges with him, and he showed me the numbers of where he was last year at the end of October. And he is probably, if I can remember right, by the end of October this year, he already had his numbers all done. He was, if I remember right, $15,000 or $20,000 ahead net at the end of October. He still has 2 more months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
That's the difference between thinking it's all about the economy and understanding you have way more control over your profit than the economy does. There's always going to be a way to make money in every market.
Right. Yeah, for sure you do.
All right.
So I want to ask Andrea a question real
Sure.
quick. So one of the Andrea, what's one of the biggest things that surprised you about trucking when you got into this industry that you got into, that you were like, oh wow, that's a cool thing, and I'm grateful for that.
I did not understand the rate per load situation, and
Right.
so I was like, what the heck? Okay, got it, of course. Because my experience is largely with the restaurants. And Kevin, to like tag on to what you just said, I have 2 friends who just opened restaurants. And I'm like, you just opened restaurants right now? Are you serious? Are you serious? And they're like, yes, because I love hospitality and I have a passion for this and whatnot. And so to me, the part that I understand, I think I understand how owner operators work, and you need to get the loads and this and that, but the rate per load, I was like, whoa, I'm used to $1 per diner at the open table world. And then how much does each diner spend? Maybe it's $30, maybe it's $40, maybe it's $50, whatever. And then you can build an ROI into that. And so that goes back to the math situation.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're not, this is a strange coincidence. You are not going to believe what. So I know I don't really multitask well, but there are times during the show that I monitor my news feed, and because topics will pop up. So sometimes I'm reading something else while I'm doing this, and I just happened to look at my email. You would not believe which email just popped up. I just got an email from Open Table. I just got an email from Open Table.
What?
I did. How weird is that? Yeah. It's here. The title of it is "Winners of the Popularity Contest." The numbers don't lie. These are the most booked restaurants in town from Open Table. How weird is that?
I think Alexa is listening.
Something was going on there. That's a little scary. All right, I'm looking at the clock. We're coming up on the top of the hour here, so I want to get some callers to call in.
Let's do it.
Andrea, any final messages before we get to the top here?
No, I am just happy to be in this industry, and we are trying to do all we can do to support our carriers. And I appreciate you, Kevin and Brent, for bringing this dialogue together.
All right. Well, let's do this. Let's open up the phones, and it is a free for all. Andrea, Brent and I will take questions about anything, because it's kind of fun to do that. So if you want to talk about rates, if you want to talk about where we are in the market, or if you want to talk about anything at all, phone lines are open, 855-950-3835, or hit that call now button. It looks like we've got some people calling already. So Brent,
fantastic.
What's your schedule today? Are you jumping off at the top here?
I can stay on for a few minutes. Yep. I'm actually driving to Chattanooga, and I have the best chauffeur in the world named Teresa Hutto, my wife. So she's actually chauffeuring me up there today.
Hey,
I got a few minutes.
Am I on speaker?
No, you're not.
Hey, Teresa. I just wanted to say hi.
Kevin Rutherford says hello, Teresa. She says hello, Kevin.
Good. You're in good hands.
Well, yeah, I am in very good hands. Hey, for everybody listening on Let's Truck, Kevin helped change a lot of things in Teresa and our life from a nutrition standpoint when we got to go up and visit with him at his house in Oregon. And so it just really was a really good thing, just talking about nutrition in general. So, that was a really, really fun visit.
For some reason, now that you said that, I'm craving wings.
Oh, well, gosh, you made the best wings I've ever had on the planet. They were so good. I've never seen such incredible, delightful things in my life. And Kevin, hang on, so this, Andrew, you're gonna love this. Kevin, if you meet Kevin, you wouldn't think he's like a connoisseur of food. We got there and he had like a banquet style presentation of these wings. He was fresh frying them up and everything, but he even had them in like this little tower that had the different flavors of wings. Like you could take level 1 is this flavor, level 2 is this flavor, level 3 is this flavor. My kids thought he was great. Of course, they love Kevin and Lisa, but they also really love Diesel the dog. So, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah, fantastic.
So, Andrea, we have another connection. I've never worked in I kind of did work in the food industry when I was 14, bussing tables. I'm not sure if that counts, but I've always been a foodie. I've been cooking since I was a teenager. I cook almost every day. It's how I relax. So I love food. I've learned all kinds of different cuisines and techniques. And then my wife, who I've known since high school, she was a restaurant consultant. So she would go into restaurants and
Seriously?
help them. Yeah, she would. She worked for a couple companies, but then she ended up at U.S. Foods, and she would go in and work on menu items and profitability and all of that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, so.
I have a 6-year-old daughter. I should be a grandma, but I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I'm like, hey, Naya, how about you try some uni? How about you try? She didn't go over so well, but she'll try everything, right? And so I got you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, we've got a call. So let's grab a call, find out what's on Paul's mind this morning. Paul, how's Arkansas?
74, cloudy, pretty good. I'll take it. So
there you go.
Weather. So Brent Hutto, Senior, having an association with OIDA, and I am an OIDA member, but I strongly disagree with a lot of stuff that they push. Can you educate them that the broker is not the enemy, and we don't need to know how much the broker's making, because they piss me off.
Oh my gosh, Paul, why don't you just open up the biggest can of worms in the world? You know what, Paul? Here's the thing. It's Monday. It's a free for all. Love it. Here's the thing. I'm grateful that we can actually talk about this, because, I'm going to use grateful over and over and over because I want to be grateful for things because, and I think that, and I encourage you as an OOIDA member to call and talk to them. I mean, Louis Pugh is the Congress guy, the guy in Washington D.C. for them. Call and talk to them directly, and I know they listen to you because every time there's a problem with something relating to freight, I get a phone call from them going, "Hey, this member's got a problem with some freight. How are you helping them?" So I mean, Kevin and I would both agree with you that the broker in this situation never is the enemy. And I realize there's a regulation on the books that makes things challenging from a communication standpoint. But I agree with you. The broker's not the enemy. They're trying to provide the carrier with something that they don't have to do themselves.
It doesn't matter where you go. If you're buying something, go to Walmart. You buy a cucumber and it costs 17 cents. You don't ask Walmart how much they make it on it. So what's the difference? So that's the way I see it. So
I agree.
Be very annoying.
I agree. Yeah. Brent, I was going to make this comment earlier. I don't think I did, but I talked about I was just interacting on social media when I normally don't, and I got sucked into an argument, and somebody actually made the statement to me. Somebody who's been in the business a long time and should know better. When people were talking about, Craig's going to be the Secretary of Transportation and Kevin's going to be on the team, that kind of stuff. He actually made the statement, "Oh, hell no, we don't need any of that run for less crap." And what he was referring to is the fact that I teach people how to operate more efficiently. He doesn't want any of that. There's no place for any of that in trucking, according to him, because all that does is drive down rates. Isn't it a shame? This is why we need more education. I mean, that is just ignorance of how business works, just basic business.
Right.
You don't get to
Yeah.
go out and be completely inefficient at things and then demand people pay your rate. That's not how it works.
Well, this is we go back to this, and this is one thing that I'm always grateful for technology, because because you have access to data, you see the supply and demand in the marketplace, and I think that's one of the things that I would really, and we'll talk about this certainly when we do our webinar series, that you need to understand that you work in a competitive environment. So, every other owner, operator, or carrier, or big trucking company, small trucking company is a competitor to you if you drive a truck for a living and make your profit that way. And so that's one thing. And then you also work in a supply and demand marketplace. So nobody dictates what the rates are. The market dictates what it is, over supply over demand every single time. So it doesn't matter how much it doesn't matter what we want. It's what the market bears. It's just like buying stocks and bonds and all the other things where you don't control something, the supply and demand does of it. And but I get it, and I appreciate Paul's point about that brokers aren't the enemy, and I'm not sure that OOIDA believes that completely. I think that they just want a good solution that works for carriers.
Yeah. So since I've been leased to the same carrier for over 20 years, and
oh, fantastic!
Since the start of 2023, I've only pulled one load that was not the carrier that I'm leased to. That was just in the last couple of months since 2023.
Okay.
Nice.
Hey, Paul, good question. Paul, let me ask you a question. This is another thing maybe I'd like to be grateful for. Does your fleet that you're leased onto, do they give you an option of pulling freight for someone else?
Yeah, we can go. We can, and some of it we can just go directly to that company, and they call them and say, "You got a load?" Yeah, I got a load going from Texas to Arkansas or whatever. Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And because there is carriers that we're set up with, but and they'll give you a load, and then they just send it to the dispatch, and they build it, tell you what it's going to pay, and carry on. But they give us that opportunity to do that. But a lot of the time, I'll work my week out, and like I left home on last Thursday, and I'll be home today. One load out, one load back. So
there you go.
5 stops on the load out and 4 stops on the load back. But in the interest of efficiency, which the government seems to be getting on the bandwagon, I hope they let the car hauling industry go up to 88,000 pounds on 5 axles. So there is that bill out there. So
there you
we'll
go.
see what happens. So,
good stuff. All right, Paul. Thanks for the call. Phone lines are open. It's quiet today. 855-950-3835, or hit that call now button on your app. Brent, I want to go back to the NASDAQ conference because a couple of pretty cool things happened there.
Okay.
I talked about Donald and his predictions. Good to hear. I was part of the Driver of the Year Awards. They have 20-some drivers, and then they do a team captain kind of thing, and it's one of my favorite parts. We actually do this thing with all 20 of them. Kelly Lang, she's a country music kind of legend, her and her husband. We actually did this thing where we just got to question the drivers. Just kind of an interview style. We got to ask them whatever questions we wanted. Yeah, they just said, ask them whatever you want. And then we also got a chance to sit with a table full of them at a dinner. So like I was the head of a table, and they had multiple tables in the room. So I had 8 people with me at this table that were all drivers of the year. And I actually talked to a guy, talk about a unicorn in trucking. This guy got his first driving job in 1988, and he still works for that same company.
Wow.
How often does that happen in trucking?
Almost never.
Almost never. I was absolutely shocked by that number. I also found out two really interesting statistics because, again, we got to question them, and then each table kind of shared what everybody else talks about. Two things, I guess. One of them absolutely did not surprise me at all. I could have predicted this easily. And the other one was kind of surprising. So we talked about, issues in trucking. What are your issues? What are your problems? What kind of things could we make better? Hands down across the board, there were two things every driver in that room praised. I didn't hear a single negative comment about ELDs. They did not have a problem with the ELDs at all. In fact, almost to a person, everybody really liked it better than paper logs. They loved paid parking. That one shocked me. Everybody that used paid parking said they will continue to use it, and it's a great tool. That I was really overwhelmed by how positive the paid parking issue was. I was not at all surprised by the one thing that drivers absolutely hate the most. I don't even think this is close. Inward-facing cameras.
Why am I not surprised by that?
I'm not surprised by that at all. It's the worst idea I've ever heard, and I can't imagine that they're going to continue pushing these things. We'll see. There was an interesting. So we're in this room, and I'm at a table, and I'm kind of running the table and doing these interviews and questions. But there's multiple tables in the room, and David Owen was also running a table right behind me, and I couldn't see him because my back was to him. And when I was the one talking about this issue of these inward-facing cameras. And I'm saying, what a horrible idea. Why would anybody even think you should do this? And David stands up and says, well, Kevin, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I love inward-facing cameras. And I thought, we're going to have a fight. I mean, what? I turned around and I looked at him and I said, what did you just say? Now I know David. So this is, totally took me off guard. I'm ready to just fight. And he starts laughing and he said, I love when carriers put them in because we will get their drivers. That was his point.
Wow.
That every time a carrier puts these in, that you see drivers exit. And they're back out in the market looking for jobs. And they go to these smaller companies that are part of David's group because the small companies aren't going to do this. I mean, that's just never going to happen. But in my opinion, nobody should do this. It's a really, really bad idea. All right, we are at the top of the hour. Andrea, we're going to cut you loose. And I'm grateful that you joined us for our discussion on gratitude today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all of you who are listening in for all that you do.
All right.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Take care. Brent,
all right.
You hanging out
sir.
for a bit?
Yeah, I'll stick around for a few minutes. Absolutely.
All right. Well, if you've got time, we've got some calls. So we'll take the calls. I wouldn't mind talking about some politics and what's going on. We could tackle some of that because there's an awful lot going on right now. Brad, in Minnesota.
Yeah, go for it.
We'll come back to it. What's on your mind, Brad?
Yeah. I need some help with my digestive system.
Got it. What's going on?
So I've been trying. Well, I started keto about 6 years ago. It was a slow process, and I feel like it's working, but other times I feel that it's not. Because every once in a while, about once a week or so, you have an episode.
I want to make sure I'm clear.
That looks like you're not.
Brad, hold on. I want to make sure I'm clear on what
you
said. You said, I tried keto or I'm trying keto for 6 years, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But you were also talking about digestion. Which one works sometimes but not others? Keto or your digestion?
My digestion. See what I mean by that is it was a slow process getting into it. Getting into the whole real food thing.
Okay.
and everything. So
tell me, when your digestion isn't working, what's going on?
you end up having to run to the bathroom, and
Okay. Do you have
it's not a normal bowel movement.
Do you have your gallbladder?
Yes.
Okay. So it sounds like you're just not digesting fat well. And that's a problem on keto because it's a very high fat diet. And if you don't digest fats well, you may not even get the benefits of keto, because we need that fat and we need to be able to digest that fat. What's happening with you is the fat's moving right through you. Your body's not able to absorb those nutrients. So this one's fairly simple because it's pretty
It
common.
is because
Have you tried any supplementation at all yet to fix this?
I've taken your fat digestive kit, I think 3 times already in the last few years.
So when you finish the kit, is anything better?
Yes, the very first time it helped me digest would have been brain octane at the time, and now I take your mind fuel without any issues.
So we did see an improvement the first time you did this. What about the other 2 times you took the kit? Any improvements at all?
If it was very little.
Okay. So have you filled out a NutriQ?
I have not.
Okay, that would be the next step, the NutriQ, and this is probably going to require the coaching program. If multiple fat digestion kits didn't help, there's something going on that we're not understanding. Because if it was just normal poor fat digestion, the kit would fix it. It always does. Now, it took me 3 kits over 2 years, but every time I did a kit, things got better. And then at some point, I just didn't need to do that anymore. And I tested my fat digestion really well last week when I was traveling. I was probably eating 2 full sticks of pemmican a day because I didn't want to eat out. And that's the easiest way. And that is, pemmican is 50% beef fat. So it's kind of like eating butter. So if you can eat pemmican and not have any digestive issues, then you know your fat digestion is good. But we're going to have to do a NutriQ and figure out what we're missing here. So we're missing something.
Okay, because when I do eat a lot of fat, it ends up coming through as a lot of gas, and then about a day or 2 later is what ends up happening.
Yeah, that's poor fat digestion, and if the kit isn't fixing it, there's something we're missing. Like maybe you have really, really low gallbladder function. And if that's the case, we're probably going to have to do a liver gallbladder flush to get things kicked off. But I don't know that. I'm just guessing. That's why we start with the NutriQ.
Yep.
So what I can do is I'm going to put you back in the queue, and we will get you set up on a NutriQ, and we can go from there. Let's go to Kansas. Tom, what's on your mind?
Yeah, good morning, Kevin. Hey, talking about safety, so I had an idea, and I don't know if it's even out there. I haven't even looked for it. But so I don't know how many times a day guys will be driving next to me, going to pass me real fast. Yesterday, I almost got sideswiped, and then I look over, the dude's got his foot on the dash and his phone in his hand, texting, you know. Indoor-facing cameras are horrible. I won't work for a company that has them. I've been with this company a long time anyway. But if I already told them that, I go, you go to get that, and I'm out.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
With the technology we have nowadays, I would think that we would be able to have, like, you know how, like, I think Progressive has what they call a snapshot. You plug it into the 9-prong deal on your car, like where the ELD goes, you know, and then they monitor how you're doing. I would think that there would be the technology out there to plug that in for carriers that wanted it and go through their insurance companies, that would disable the text mechanism in the phone, but still allow your phone or YouTube, because a lot of times I'll look over and they're watching a show. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's like,
No,
dude, it's like out of hand. You know what I mean?
this is a good point, and this is one of the areas that I do argue with people about. And David Owen and I have gotten into some pretty heated discussions about this. I believe that technology has made our roads very unsafe. And it's the technology you just talked about. The ability to watch a video while you're going down the road, easily watch a video. Your phone's right there. You might have a tablet, a laptop, whatever. It's there are way too many distractions inside of vehicles now. With everybody's running 16 apps, and we have 3 Bluetooth devices and 2 Wi-Fi devices, and they're all competing. And then somebody's got to stop and try to figure out why their headset isn't connecting to their radio anymore, or their phone. Or technology has made the roads very, very unsafe. That kind of technology. So now I am all for more technology to make it safer. So we either have to turn off all this technology and get it the hell out of our vehicles, or we have to have more technology to make that technology safe. And I'm okay with that, because I don't think we're getting rid of the technology. So I think what we need to do is we need the vehicle to be smarter. And we need the vehicle to protect us from these people that are watching videos while they're driving.
Well, it's still okay. Did you hear me honking? I pulled next to the truck that has a flat tire that's fixing to throw it off the rim, right?
Oh, this is one of my pet
peeves. I honked at him just now. Yeah, just now. And then I'm honking at him, but he's on the phone acting like he doesn't want to talk to me because I'm interrupting his phone call.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, what?
No, that's
dude, the tire's just flopping right around, and so he's too busy on the damn phone to realize that he's fixing to throw that tire on somebody. You know what I mean? It's just there is no you unfortunately there's no pill or no app for stupid.
No,
you know what I mean? We're never going to fix that.
You've listened to the show long enough that there was a time where every time I talked about that, I would get somebody that wanted to fight with me. This idea of, well, I'm just going to limp this tire to the next exit or to the next truck stop. No, you're not. You shouldn't. You should pull over and get it fixed. That's what you should do. I don't care what you tell me. It's dangerous to drive down the road with rubber flying off. And when these people do this, they're usually going about 20 miles an hour less than the speed limit or more. They're kind of hanging off the side of the road sometimes on the shoulder. And that is a stupid thing to do. And it's
he had no idea. He had no idea. I was going.
Well, that's even worse.
He's going 65. He had no idea. He had no idea that thing was like that.
Yeah. Well,
oh my God. Yeah.
So as far as autonomous
I think that the technology is out there where you can, and I think if somebody, I mean, you're big on tech. Run it by your guy. How hard would that be just to disable the text mechanism, YouTube, or just what you really would want to do is, because of headsets, just enable the phone. If you had something that basically disabled your whole smartphone except for the phone function in the damn thing, I guarantee
Tom,
your insurance rates would go way down.
One, I don't want anything mandated, and that's a problem. But I do not want
not a mandate.
Right? No, I know. But here's something else. Okay, we lock down your phone, which is fairly easy to do. How do we lock down your laptop and your tablet? Because somebody's just going to stick a tablet there and do the same thing. Can we lock down all of the technology? I don't know. And I doubt that anybody's going to spend any money trying to develop it, because if it isn't mandated, I don't think it's going to catch on.
If you go to FedEx and they say, okay, your insurance rate is going to go down 25%, it becomes self-mandated.
Oh, if it's voluntary and we can get, absolutely. And if a carrier wants to do any of this stuff, well, it's up to them. It's kind of like inward-facing cameras. I don't want.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But is there the technology? Is there the technology where it'd be easily available for a? Is it even available out there, like the snapshot thing? You know what I mean? So I'm not into the tech, bro. I can barely. You know what I mean? I watch YouTube shorts.
The snapshot thing is simple because all of the data they use on that snapshot is already present in the ECM. I mean, that's why you plug it into the ECM port. It is just collecting very specific data. Every truck with electronics has that data there already. It's things like speed, hard braking, all of the things we can measure. That's what that snapshot thing does. It's just measuring. And look, that speed measurement is tied to GPS data as well. So they know not only were you going 55, but it was a 25 mile an hour zone. That they know that all that data is in there. They know.
Right.
With some trucks now, they can know when you're following.
Is Bruce still with us?
Brent, you mean?
Brent. I'm sorry, Brent.
Yeah, Brent.
Yes, sir. I'm right here. Listen to you.
Are you there? Are you there? Yeah.
I'm here. I'm here.
Hey, how's Tennessee doing? Did you get to go to Crashville? Are you Crashville or are you?
No, I'm not. I'm still in Alabama right now. I'm heading that way.
Oh, you're heading that way. Okay. Good.
Yes, sir.
Well, good luck with that.
Yes, sir.
What with all the people that you talk to and whatnot? Does the insurance rates they come up often with your conferences and whatnot?
Oh, for sure they do. I mean, insurance across the board since the pandemic have increased. I don't know the percentages all the way for every category, but I know they've gone up 10 to 30% depending on where you are in America. And that's just painful because no one likes to pay for insurance because you hope that you pay for something you can never use, right? So that's the key. But so it goes up. It ends up just being a cost. But I think that what you're talking about ways in which to mitigate or reduce the insurance cost by showing the insurance company that you are a low risk, I think that's a good thing. And I'm not for anything that you don't get to choose, though. I mean, you should be able to choose it. So if you want to choose, if you want to choose an inward-facing camera that and it'll give you 10%, 20% lower rates in your insurance, then that's up to you. So you want to choose that. But yeah, there's a lot of talk, Tom, these days about what's going on in the insurance world and the insurance providers. By the way, the insurance providers are very aggressive about, hey, what can you show us? And Truck Stop, we show them data about their performance on, what type of freight they move, how long they've been a customer, what's their sort of rate, how they rate in the industry. Are they an A carrier with us? Are they a B carrier with us? And so we show that to the insurance people, and they definitely take that into consideration when they are quoting rates for carriers in the marketplace. And I'll tell you also this, Tom, when you consider the challenge with the theft in the marketplace, with all the things that the carrier now is being measured against, we are providing that data as well to brokers or shippers that use carriers. And they're even now, the insurance companies even like looking at that data because that's an even greater diagram of barometer. Let's go ahead and put a barometer of how that carrier is operating. And I realize, and look, I totally understand if I'm a carrier, I'd like to know what I'm being measured against because I want to run my operation where I can reduce my costs as much as possible, 100%. And so, but go ahead. Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you think that's something that they would be interested in too? Then
I do.
The guys that you talk to, if it's voluntary, if it's voluntary.
Well, as long as the insurance company can collect, clean data on the performance of the person that they're insuring, if it's a better risk than others, they have risk profiles for everybody in the marketplace. And so if you have a really low risk profile, you'll pay less in insurance for sure. But remember, remember this, Tom, remember this. that the insurance risk is measured over the entire industry, not one person. Because when you look at like these nuclear verdicts and other things that are coming out, that where somebody's losing $100 million, that goes into the overall pool that what's paid out for insurance. And so they're insuring the entire marketplace. Now they may be insuring you in the marketplace, but they have to insure against the entire marketplace and what their exposure is going to be. Because remember, an insurance company is just another company that needs to make a profit.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, like Colorado, and it was because of the skiing accidents, and they capped their insurance payoffs. So I don't know. It was a long time ago when I was living up in Vail, something like $3 million or something. But it went across to insurance payouts also. I think this is where the states need to come in and cap those nuclear verdicts at $10 million or something reasonable. Right. You know what I mean, per person. And that's more of a state issue, or it may be, or a federal. Maybe it can be federal, where they say, you know what, this is just out of hand now. $170 million verdict is ridiculous. It'll eventually get overturned probably, but how much money is going to be spent on appeals and whatnot. But speaking about insurance rates, so I have to watch a couple videos because for the insurance company that my company goes through. So I watched them and they sent me a certificate. So when I signed up I changed insurance about a year ago. So when I signed up for that, I sent that certificate to my insurance company, and it was just the videos that you watched, or was probably 2 hours worth or whatever. And answered questions, blah, blah, blah. My insurance rate went down about 20% on my personal vehicle because I had that certificate, Wow. So I see what you're saying, that as an overall, they take it in, everything in, they try to make it individual for you, but I imagine they have a lot of things like the inward facing camera and cameras on your truck and stuff like that. So yeah, okay, very good. All right, well, I was just wondering what your guys' feeling was on that.
All right,
yeah, happy to answer.
Good stuff. Thanks for the call. All right, Brent, we've got another call coming in, but I'm going to start talking a little bit about what we'll probably just wrap up today with. I do want to talk about what's going on in politics. And
let's do it. Sure.
I've got to say that, I started getting interested in politics in my late 20s. Was the first time I really started paying attention. I'm embarrassed to tell this. I'm embarrassed to tell this story, but you want to know how ignorant I was of politics prior to that? This is embarrassing.
Do tell.
Yeah. So I was in the Army, and they had this program for Soldier of the Month. And I actually got nominated. And it was a pretty big deal. And there's a whole process you have to go through, and there's qualifications. And then the final interview, you go through this final interview. They got it down to like 3 people now. Yeah, and you go through this interview, and it's, several officers from your battalion that are interviewing you, and they're asking questions. And some of it's military questions, do you know what you're supposed to know about military topics, but it could be almost anything. Right. And you would not believe the only question I missed. I was just killing it on this stuff because I read a lot and I studied through this. I was pretty prepared. The only question I missed, who was the vice president of the United States? I did not know. How bad is that? I
love it.
I did. It was George Bush at the time, by the way, the first one. But
it was George Bush.
It was. I did not know that. How sad is that? Really?
Wow.
That's how ignorant I was of politics.
I'll tell you something really interesting. And then our country was the revolution was started in Boston, Massachusetts. And the reason it was started in Boston, Massachusetts is because the literacy rate, and the amount of people that could read in Boston. Now you got to think, this is in the 1700s.
Right.
The literacy rate, and look, the people that were rushing to come to America weren't the best and the boldest and the most educated. Okay, they were just the people trying to escape.
That's right.
You know, trying to find an opportunity for themselves. But the literacy rate in Boston was almost 90%.
Wow.
So they could read, they could understand,
Yeah.
they knew what Great Britain was cramming down onto the colonies. And they were like, this isn't right, this isn't fair. And so my point about, for me, Kevin, when I started understanding about how our country is governed, I won't just throw it into politics, I'll just say, how is our country governed? Was when I started paying taxes on my compensation that I got, and I started looking at things going, okay, well, how does this work? So I found this book in the library that talked about our government and how much money is spent on things. And I was like, oh, that's really fascinating. No wonder it's hard for them to change our budget. And then I looked at how our government's run, and it said, it made this statement about how government budgets never shrink. And I went, well, wait a minute, but there's something in the news that said this part of the government was shrinking. And it's always about how you spin the words on what they mean. And so I looked at it, I was like, oh, well, that's why our government will never get smaller, because they have this thing called baseline budgeting. And baseline budgeting says, okay, if you got $100 last year, if you don't spend all the $100, you have to readjust your budget to what you spent. So if you spent $96, your new budget for next year was $96 plus inflation.
Yep.
So this is why we have government entities that go and just spend all the money they can, regardless of whether or not they need to spend it or not. So there's no motivation for efficiency, and they spend all the money because next year they want to get 100% of their budget plus inflation. So they might get $100 plus, if inflation was say 6%, they get $106 in their budget.
Yeah.
And so the budgets,
yep.
but if they budget, they're only going to spend $104, then they say, we saved against our budget. But they didn't, because they're spending more money. This is what baseline budgeting. So every American should know that our government inherently will not get smaller unless something forces them to do it. Because why would you? If you're running that department, it's just fair money that comes to them. They don't have to earn it. They don't have to work for it. They don't have to be efficient for it. They just get it. And so that's when, to me, as soon as I read that, Kevin, as I read that, I was just like,
that's a problem.
This has got to change.
Yeah, that's a problem.
How in the world? No business operates that way.
Well, it kind of feeds into the way I want to approach this topic of politics right now. Is I was very ignorant about politics into my late 20s, and then I started studying it. Like I do a lot of things. I dove in pretty deep, and I've been following it ever since. Yeah, and our government is not run the way it was designed. I mean, that's one of the things we could look at, say, this is not how this was designed. Yeah, but it never, ever changes. I mean, both parties have always said, we're going to shrink government. Nobody ever does. I don't know if it's going to work this time, but I will say this is by far the biggest attempt at this I have ever seen. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I think one way or another, our country is going to look significantly different 12 months from now than it does now. I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. Something, I think, big has to change this time. I don't think we're going to end up with the same kind of results. Here's one of the things that I was just realizing. Trump is first off, he's making his appointments really fast. He is not messing around this time. He paid his own transition team before he even knew if he was going to be the president. That's how ahead of the curve he is this time. He's making wild appointments that's all anybody's talking about, because they're kind of, in some ways, outrageous. But this is the point, isn't it? Don't we need to do something different from what we've done my whole lifetime? And here's what I see in his appointments. I see everyday people with experience that will help them run that department rather than political appointees, which is what we've had in the past. It didn't matter what your experience was. If you had enough years in politics, they would just put you in charge of anything. And that doesn't work. And now what you're seeing, are real everyday people much, much closer to these problems. And that's why everybody's freaking out. Oh, that person isn't experienced enough to do this. Well, wait a minute. The person that's already in that position that you've never said a thing about has zero experience. And they've done nothing. So, but here's what I was looking at. Just like I said, in my early 20s, I didn't even know who the vice president was. Now I'm looking at a whole list of people who are being tapped to be a part of this team and this administration that I know, that I've met, that I've had on my show. I mean, these are real. Prior to this, I didn't know anybody that worked in government. Nobody. There was not a single person I knew personally that had anything to do with government at the federal level. Now I'm looking at a list of about 10 people. That's kind of crazy.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that's helped me is that when I got into logistics, when I started Truck Stop in 2013, I started having to go to Washington and talk to representatives and talk to senators about, how the soup is made, and so it helped me and I started working more closely with the FMCSA, and I started really meeting people for people's sake. Yeah. And there's a lot of people in our government that really want to do what's best for the industry that they serve, or whatever department they serve, or the industry that they serve in it. So I started realizing, man, there's a lot of really great people, especially through the pandemic, where they're still working every day. They're still doing the things that they need to be doing, and they care. And most importantly, they want to listen, and they want to listen to what you're doing. So that's super encouraging. When you hear that, when you put it like on a personal level. But I'll tell you this, and if you go back to the founding documents of our country, one of the things that was espoused by our founders was that they warned us as a nation. They said a couple of things. One of the things it says, be careful how much you get involved into foreign wars and foreign conflicts. That was one of the big things. But one of the other big things was, be careful that the government does not become the largest employer in the nation. And our federal government is the largest employer by far. And the reason they warned us against it was because if you get that many people voting on something to save their jobs, they're going to vote differently than if it's whether or not it's the right, most efficient thing to do for the situation that's at hand. And so we now have this big issue, and this is why it's going to be interesting to see how it works out, this Department of Government Efficiency, on how it helps our country just work more the way it's supposed to work, which is small government, not big government. So it's very interesting to see how these things happen. But here's the thing that I'll warn everybody now, though. None of this is going to come pain-free.
Oh, that's what
we're going to have to go through some pain.
Yeah.
We're going to have to go through some pain in order to do it, because nothing worthwhile that you do in life comes without sacrifice.
Yeah,
there's going to have to be some sacrifice across the board.
That's a good point. One of the things I was shocked about, and you don't know how much of this is true. This is complicated, but I actually saw Elon make the statement. That's another cool thing about what's going on in the world right now, politics and everything. I'm really active on X. Really active, because I get a lot of my news there now. It has become a regular part of my day because there's so much information there and so much news. I don't watch any news anymore because I can get it all on X. I can interact with people. But one of the things that's really interesting is the people who are making these massive changes in our country, Elon, Vivek, Donald Trump himself. We get to watch them interact with people in real time. Online. I mean, you can have conversations with these people. We're watching what's happening. And I was shocked that Elon made the statement, or no, maybe it was Vivek. Vivek made the statement that some of these alphabet agencies could be eliminated with an executive order. I don't know if that's right or not, but he's a pretty sharp guy, and I don't think he would make that statement if it wasn't true. That's kind of a big deal.
That's a really big deal. It's a really, really big deal. I'll tell you something else. I'll tell you one other thing. This is the other thing that got me going about my government. And I say my government because I love our country, and I'm a proud patriot, but I'm also a human being. So I care for, not just our country only. We should care for all humans on the planet. And so I'm all pro that. But the thing that got one of the other things that got me, we were talking about Social Security. Like, we all pay 7.5% into Social Security because that's going to help us when we all get to retirement age and everything else like that. And even though that kind of that goal line keeps getting pushed back further and further in age.
Yeah.
But my point was that this is what shocked me. Our elected representatives do not have to pay into Social Security.
I know.
I know. Yeah, so their retirement is not built on that. So it's like, wait a minute, they're the one voting, administrating, growing this safety net for everybody, and they're not beholden to it.
Right. Yeah.
That's like hiring. That's like hiring a consultant to run your business all the time. They're not responsible for the results.
Well, and that's what we all are tired of, and we really need to see it change. And the way to see it is exactly what they're doing. You got to shrink the government first. The government was designed to be inefficient. When you look at all the checks and balances that were put into place.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It is by design inefficient. They don't want it easy for the government to do things. That was the original
to change
the founders that this should be right. So that's good, though. This is one place where inefficiency is a good thing. When we had a constitutional government, the fact that it was inefficient, hard to change, was a good thing. The problem comes in is we now want government to do everything in our life, and they suck at all of it because the system is designed to be inefficient, and too many of the people who make decisions don't have any skin in the game on this. Like you said, Social Security, that's a huge thing. They can vote for whatever they want because it doesn't affect them. So the first thing we have to do is just shrink the government back down to what it is supposed to be doing and let the states handle the rest of the stuff. So I'm excited about the direction we're going in. You look at how much business experience there is at the top right now. We've never seen this. We've never seen a president who's really a businessman, very successful, a vice president who is a very successful businessman, not a politician.
Oh, yeah.
The closest people on the team are, one of them we could say is the most successful capitalist in the history of the world, right?
Yep.
And the people we have up there have tremendous amounts of business experience, and that's encouraging for everybody who's in business. So I'm pretty excited. On the health side, holy cow, I'm looking at a list of people that have been on my show that are all going to be a big part of this. In fact, I just saw another one. Nina Teicholz has been on our show twice.
Oh.
And they are looking at her as putting her in charge of redoing all the nutritional guidelines. And here's the thing.
Wow.
If we're going to have nutritional guidelines from the government, somebody like her would be great. She really, really understands this whole issue. But here's my point. I hate to say it, Nina, but I don't want you to get this job. I don't think the government should be putting out nutritional guidelines. That's not their job. That is not something we need our federal government to do, and we shouldn't be doing it at all.
That's interesting. Why do you say it that way?
Because here's the problem. I feel like this would be a good idea to let somebody who I believe understands nutrition do this. But what's going to happen when the next administration comes in? And they're going to put somebody else in charge, and they may have a totally different take on. This is not the role of our government. And
I see your point.
Let's look at statistics and history. The Department of Education looks like one of the first ones they may get rid of. I'm glad they should. People are like, oh my God, what do you mean? You're not going to send kids to school? We're not going to have a department. Wait a minute. Brent, what grade were you in 1979?
79. I was
a sophomore in high school.
Grade. I was in I think 8th grade, 7th grade.
So do you realize that's when the Department of Education started?
Really?
Yeah.
Golly, I thought it was before that.
No, 1979. I was almost out of school completely before there was a federal Department of Education. We didn't officially measure a lot of things back then, but if you go back and look at the statistics, most people will tell you we were number one in the world in education. We had we
were for a long time, sure.
We were looked at as the elite education system. It's why we created so many great companies and things, because we educated our children really well. We were number one in the world. That was 1979. Since they started the Department of Education, now we're like 32nd in the world. I mean, it is horrible how far we have fallen, and our statistics are abysmal when it comes to education. So clearly, having a federal department did not do us any good, and looks like it did a lot of damage. So this idea that, oh my God, how can we do this without a Department of Education? We did it really well for a long time. We don't need these departments. They shouldn't exist. And I feel the same way about health and nutrition. The government should not be a part of that.
Yeah. To me, I look at this. What's the in anything that you do, you should look at the outcome. What's the outcome?
Right. What are the results?
What are the results of it? Yeah, and you look at where we rank internationally or globally, and we have continued to underperform for what I think Americans would want. They would want how they would education system.
Hey, we're going to grab a call. Before we do, I just looked down and on my live stream, I live stream on Facebook and X and Instagram and all kinds of places. And in all those places, people can comment. There's a chat with my video. And I'm trying to get some clarification on this, because somebody I've never heard of before on Facebook, they just typed this comment in. It says, "This man needs to go to jail." I think she's talking about me. I'm not sure. I must have said something.
What do you need to go to jail for?
I don't know. I must have said something that triggered somebody. All right, we're going to grab a call, and we're just about going to wrap this up. So if you want to jump in, now would be the time to do it. 855-950-3835. We're going to go to Florida. Glenn, welcome.
Hey, Kevin, Reed, Brent, how are you?
Good. What's on your mind today?
You
guys, Glenn.
You guys were talking about insurance, and then got off on politics, and then my blood pressure started to go up when you started to talk about politics. I almost forgot what I called in for. But so I've called you a couple times, Kevin. On the health side, but I haven't really called in on this side.
Okay.
So as far as the insurance stuff goes, I got a 21-year-old son that I sent to the state. He lives in South Carolina. He went through the state program and got his CDL. My insurance company would not. I run a couple of trucks in a 55 truck operation. So the company insurance wouldn't put him on, obviously, because he had no experience and at 21 years old. So I directed him to go to a mega carrier. He went there with his CDL. So then they put him in 5-week yard, at one of their terminals where they do yard program training and everything. So that's 5 weeks. Now, keep in mind, he never drove at all. So 5 weeks in their yard, they put him, after that 5 weeks is up, they put him in a team operation, with a, not a true team operation, but with another lead driver that's a trainer for 4 weeks. 4 weeks, which just blew my mind. 28 days with someone. After that 28 days, he was evaluated and they say, yeah, he's good to go. So after like 5 days in, the trainer is in the bunk sleeping while he's driving with literally a couple thousand miles of experience.
Wow.
I mean, I've got over 2 million miles of experience, and he's been with me now because he had to come with me for 6 months. I'll tell you the deal I made with the insurance company where they hired him. I had him quit the mega carrier when I found out after 4 weeks he had to take, they gave him a list, and he had to call and speak to these people and see if they had any personality conflict, because they wanted them to be a true team and run 4,200 miles a week after 4 weeks of being on the road with someone. So when you talk about, Brent, when you mentioned how it's a global picture that the insurance companies and these nuclear verdicts and everything, here's my thing. So I run a couple trucks in a 55 truck fleet. So when one of those guys runs into my truck, I'm involved in the accident. My insurance company doesn't care that the guy that ran into me or caused the accident or whatever the case may be. They just know that I was involved in an accident, and it's a chargeable accident, whatever the case may be. But I had him quit when I found out that it was only 4 weeks, and I told him, I said, here's what you're going to tell them. You tell them that you do not feel safe driving with someone that has the same amount of experience. In the three and a half months that he's been with me, because he's got till the end of the year, is going to be 6 months. The 3.5, 4 months that we've been driving together, up until last week was the first time that we actually did a team type load, where I actually had to sleep while he drove. What I've been doing up through this point is basically just running solo freight, and I'm sitting here observing what he's doing and coaching him through the day. How the hell can you take and tell me that someone, a 21-year-old kid that's never driven a truck before, and here's the other thing, the state, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this or not, they took the backing requirement out of getting your CDL. So he didn't have to back up. He didn't have to back up at all. So
they're training him to be a flatbed driver.
Oh my God, Kevin, my head was going to explode. And my wife says, herself, she's like, how is it possible for him to go out there? Now keep in mind, 4,200 miles a week, with collectively between the two of them, they would have had maybe 3 months experience, maybe 4 months experience.
Well,
and they're going to run them all over the country in weather.
And here's something else. They'll do that day after day after day after day. There are many, many carriers in this country right now who would not hire me to drive their truck.
Yeah, because you've been out of it for so long. You don't have the verifiable experience.
Right.
Which you could probably close your eyes and you could drive circles around probably the guys that are instructors at their places.
Yeah. How does that make any sense? This isn't something you forget. You don't, and you could say that I've been out of it a long time. The last time I drove a truck commercially was 2012. And I wasn't driving full time in 2012. I just went in and once in a while I would just go give a driver a surprise day off, and I would take the truck and do his run for him. And so you could say, well, yeah, you've been out of it 12 years. I can promise you this. I didn't forget anything. I can drive just as good as I could. 12 years ago.
We put you in a rodeo at one of the state associations, you probably place in the top 3.
Yeah, with a little bit of practice, I absolutely could. It wouldn't be that hard at all. To think that we will put these brand new drivers in, put them with the driver trainer who doesn't have a year yet, and yet they would not hire me at all. It's just, I just don't understand how we've gotten so screwed up in this industry on that.
That's what just had my blood boiling, and I'm like, so what I did was, we were up for insurance renewal, and I talked to the ownership of the company, and they basically did, we were at like a $5,000 deductible, so they were able to tier the deductible. So because he didn't have 6 months experience, the deductible is $12,500. Then when he gets 6 months to a year, they went to $7,500, and then over a year, it'll go back down to $5,000. But the caveat is he has to be with me for 6 months.
Right.
And that's what I was able to negotiate with them.
Excellent.
I'm saying, listen, I'm going to be with him, and it's costing me money in the beginning, because I'm not able to run and do and commit to what I was doing before, because I don't want to rush him. I want him to do it at his own pace. I want him to see what's going on. And there's been some situations where there's no way he could have done it without me being in the truck, where I've had to jump in the seat real quick or something like that and just explain to him, this is how you have to take and navigate that. He had somebody sleeping behind him after 5 days in the truck. You would have to put me on morphine
Oh yeah,
to
I
take
couldn't
and fall
do it.
asleep.
I couldn't do it. There's no way.
There's no way. Now here's the other thing. At 4,200 miles a week, Kevin, you've been in a truck, and when you with your FedEx experience and stuff, I'm sure you had team stuff where you had to take and something had to happen.
Oh
when
yeah.
you're driving behind somebody, there's no way you get good sleep. I don't care who you are. I don't care what kind of mattress you have.
We've talked about it a lot. Yeah.
Right. So how are you going to get sleep with somebody with 4 weeks experience in front of you? That's like playing like a college game, like a video game. Like, how long are we going to take and stay on the road for?
Well, like I said, if I have any influence in anything that changes at the federal level with all this going on, my whole gig will be about training and education. Because I think we need a lot more of it. All right. Hey, I'm going to cut you loose. We've got another call. We're coming up on the top of the hour here. We're going to go to South Carolina. Terrence.
Hey, Kevin.
Well, go ahead, Brent.
What's up, Kevin? What's up, Brett?
Hey, man. What's going on? Who's this?
Terrence.
Hey, Terrence.
So my opinion with the inward-facing cameras, I have it at my job here, and like when somebody does something wrong or gets fired, they show it on a monthly safety meeting. But the thing with that is I think these companies do it because then they have, like, if they have a driver that does something wrong, and then they go to fire them, and then they could claim anything, discrimination, age, or whatever. They have proof to show, well, this is what he did when he was involved in this accident or something, I think that's why most of them are going for that.
I get that, but it is really, really short-sighted on their part. No human being wants a camera on them all day long. They just don't. And certainly not drivers. We are drivers for a reason. We don't want to be monitored constantly. And, this idea that, it helps us fire people. Well, maybe you should hire better people in the first place so that you don't put such a big focus on needing to fire them. But
Absolutely.
I employed drivers for a couple decades. I had no problem firing people. I just fired them.
Yeah.
To just deal with it. You fire them, and if they want to fight you, you fight back. I've had to do that. I've had to fight over unemployment benefits and all kinds of stuff. That never would I think, I'm going to put an inward-facing camera in, and that's going to help me fire people. Well, your whole focus is wrong. Maybe you should put some of that effort into hiring better drivers.
No, absolutely. I agree. I said my opinion on it. And like I said, because this place I work at now, it's not the best, but you know what? I'm happy. It's easy. And I don't even worry. That thing doesn't even bother me. I don't even pay attention to it.
Let's think about this. I said earlier, I am all for more technology to make us safer because technology has made us unsafe. I am not against sensors inside the cab. They don't need to be cameras. We already have it in a bunch of cars. Right? My car right now will tell me that 2 of my vehicles will tell me that I'm drowsy. I'm showing signs of being drowsy. And there are no cameras. Nobody can see me driving, but the sensors can monitor my eye movements. And it's pretty darn accurate. And so I'm okay with that kind of technology that helps keep the driver alert, monitors whether they're alert or not, maybe even takes some control of the vehicle if a driver actually falls asleep. I'm all for that. But the idea that there's a video camera and somebody can watch somebody all day long is just wrong. Nobody's ever going to like that.
Yeah. No. Like I said, I just put it out of my mind. I don't even.
Yeah.
You want to get rid of me? You get rid of me. I mean,
yeah.
I'll get another job.
But that's interesting. And you're right. I bet that is the motivation behind a lot of it. It makes it easier to fire somebody. I just think that's a horrible way to run a company.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. All right, let you guys go. Good show.
All right, Brent. Any
Yes, sir.
Anything you want to touch on before we wrap this up?
Oh, nothing. Just grateful that we get to have that there's a guy like you out there listening to truckers and hearing what's going on with them and trying to make a difference in the marketplace. And I don't know. I'm just it's fun to be think about being grateful for things and just kind of keep that in mind as we go up and down the roads and enjoy this thing called freedom, that we get the opportunity to choose what we want to do, and that just makes life a whole lot more fun. Just like this, you were talking about the technology in trucks. I mean, if you get to choose it, that's one thing. If it's thrust upon you, that's another. So, but
All right.
yeah. So it's so I'm all for it, man. Yeah, and I gotta drop real quick, but no, it's been a great show today. I appreciate being on, man. I love talking to truckers, man. It's always fun.
All right. Oh, hey, one thing we have to talk about before you
Yeah.
go. We have to talk about our
Yeah.
our webinar series coming up this week. You do
Yeah,
know it's this
absolutely.
week, right?
We're recording it. Say what?
You do know it's this week, right?
Yeah, but you know, we have a practice tomorrow, and then we're recording on Friday, right?
We are, correct. Yeah. So
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
we're starting off. Our first topic this week is the big picture. One of
Right.
the things that is very, very different about this course. This course has a lot to do with getting your own authority, becoming a carrier, that kind of thing. What's really different about this, I've looked at it. There are other courses out there. They're mostly the mechanics of doing this. What I mean by that is it's like a step by step. Well, you got to apply for this, and you have to
Right.
fill out this form, and you have to go get this kind of insurance, and we've got that in there, but that's not the focus of this program. That is the focus of every other program I've ever looked at. It is just a checklist of do
Right.
this and this and this and this, which is the reason we don't focus on that. Most of those things, you're only going to do them one time, and then they're done. You're never
Right.
even going to
Right.
think about that again. My point is, you can pay somebody to. Truck Stop has a great program that will do all of this stuff for you. Nastic has a great program
Cool.
that will do all of this stuff for you. Don't waste a single brain cell on filling out your BOC3 form. It's not worth it. You don't need to learn that. So we'll talk about it just so you know what to do. We'll give you some great ways of doing it. But
Yeah, for sure.
ours is much more about, what's the word I want to use? The process of being a successful company, which has nothing to do with
Right.
filling out all this government paperwork and getting your authority and your insurance and all that. That's just stuff you have to do. But you don't need to know about
Mhm.
that. I see so many people focus on that, and then they're in business, but they don't really know how to be in business. That's what we're going to teach people, not a bunch of government paperwork. We're going to teach people how you run a successful business as a carrier.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's really it's more like it's like everything else. It's like my father-in-law, my wife's dad was a NASA engineer. And so he was part of the first engineering team with NASA to put the man on the moon. So they had to be really, they had to create an incredible plan, right? They had to create an incredible plan in order to get us somewhere we didn't even know how to get there.
You're right.
You know, so I had to figure all that out. So his point, he would always say to me, because I just respect him so highly. By the way, he just turned 94.
Wow.
And he said he would always say, Brent, you know, the most important thing is that you plan your work before you work your plan. Most of the time people just jump right into getting the work done instead of going, wait a minute, how do we need to plan this?
Right.
And you know, and so Mr. Brink was always about that, and he still is today. How are you getting a plan together? So and that's all around like, what part of the industry, what do you want to work in? What type of strategy do you need to think about approaching that part of the marketplace? What type of mindset do you need to have in order to really think about, how do I want to operate my business? You know, where do I want to try to find success? You know, all those things that are on the front end. And I know, look, I love getting the work done too, because man, that's the payoff, right?
Yeah.
But if you'll plan your work, man, then when you work your plan, the payoff is usually much, much greater. And when problems come up, you've thought about them.
That's
What
right.
happens if I have a mechanical failure? What happens if the market changes? What happens if I lose a big customer? So all these things you've considered them, and you have like, okay, well, if this happens, I'm going to do that. And if it never does, you don't have to worry about it, but you've planned for it. And so I just kind of go back to what my father-in-law, Henry Locker Brink, one of the greatest men I know, always say. He'd say, son-in-law, if I could tell you anything, make sure you plan your work. And same thing with, like, he was even talking about like planning my marriage to his daughter, right?
No,
like,
I'm sure.
Make sure you got a plan.
That's
So,
right.
Pretty darn important. Pretty darn important.
We've got a minute left, and I just learned something I've been wondering about for a long time. Now I know.
What's that?
I've always wondered how your wife Teresa is so intelligent. Well, her father's a rocket scientist. Now it makes sense.
That's it. He is a rocket scientist. He really is.
Yeah.
And as I like to say, Kevin, I won the lottery marrying into my wife's family. It's a great family, and he's a big source of encouragement and help for me when I've got problems. The other thing, like you were talking about, big picture, is who's your wise counsel? Who are the people around you that can help you, advise you in your business? You got to have advisors. Have a team that can help you make those decisions. Man, I'm looking forward to this thing and getting working this thing through, Kevin. So I'm excited about this webinar series and how it can help owner operators. And I'm just glad to be doing it with you.
Excellent. All right. Everybody can head on over to letstruck.com. They can get registered for that. And we're going to kick this thing off. So, Brent, thank you for joining me today.
Sir.
I love the theme. Grateful. I am grateful for a lot of things.
Yes,
and I'm just going to say this. I am very cautiously optimistic about where we're heading as a country. I don't know if they can pull this off. I don't know if anything's going to change. Most things in politics haven't changed in my lifetime, but I've never seen an attempt like this. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I am cautiously optimistic that we could be heading into a great time in our country.
Me too, man. I feel the same way, buddy. And I'm glad I'm on this journey with you. We started it back in 1999, and we're going to keep moving forward and just trying to keep help owner operators, and look forward to it. I'll catch you when we go through the practice, man.
All right. Talk to you soon. Take care. All right,
See you,
everybody.
Bye-bye.
We're going to wrap this up. We will see you back here tomorrow for the Power Hour. Head on over and get registered for the webinar series. We'll be kicking that off this Friday. So be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.